Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to paint realistic rocks. That's not right. How to paint realistic wet rocks. My most popular video is my how to paint realistic rocks video, and that one is far and above viewed more than anything else on my channel. So I wanted to do another one. So this is a slight twist on that idea, how to paint realistic wet rocks, and this painting right here is the one that I did. Now in this video, I'm gonna do a voiceover as I time-lapse the painting, but stay tuned to the end because I'm actually gonna read for the first time one of the comments on my channel on my video here. So stay tuned for that to see if it's your comment that I read. And if you wanna get your comment read in a future video, leave it below. Here we go. Now, most of you guys have seen my How to Paint Realistic Rocks video. It's actually my most popular video. It's far and above been viewed more than anything else on my channel. And when you are trying to be successful, I guess this concept applies in any avenue of life and in any business that you're in. But if you have a type of content on YouTube that works and people like it, the idea, if you want to succeed on YouTube, is to try to copy it in some way that you can recreate it. So this video, of course, as you already have clicked on, is titled How to Paint Realistic Wet Rocks. The reason why I wanted to do that is because my How to Paint Realistic Rocks video did so well. So what I wanted to do was kind of do like a round 2 or number 2 video of this. So that's what I started out doing when I started this painting. That's why there's only one little section of this painting painted over, because that's all I was intending to do. But once I started working on this a little bit more, I don't really know why I didn't just do one single rock like I did in my last video. I just did the whole thing with the water and the foam and everything all together, and it just ended up being so involved that I'm like, why would I not just completely do the whole thing? When you are painting a wet rock, the trick to making something look like it's glistening that I have found is you can actually test this in real life. So if you have ever been hiking up in the woods or something, or in the mountains or anywhere, and you grab a rock off the ground that's not wet, it's very dull most of the time, and it probably is going to be covered in dirt anyway. But if you grab one out of the stream, sometimes you'll see all these cool patterns in it, and they'll be like, man, that looks really cool because it's nice and glossy and wet. So you'll pick the rock up thinking, ooh, this is a really cool rock. And then you'll take it home, and then you'll get it out of your bag, and it'll be dry, and it doesn't look anything the same. Like it's real dull and like matted, it looks like. So if you take that same rock and you put it under the water, it glistens, and the tones deepen, and the saturations, I don't know if they really separate, but the color spectrum is completely filled in. The rock is no longer grayed out, as it were. So if you want to make a rock look wet, you are going to want to make it look as least as gray as possible and make it look shiny. And one of the things that I've figured out that you can do to make it look shiny is use titanium white as your glistening. So if you want to make it look like you got some sunlight glistening off of some water drops or whatever on a rock, just take your titanium white once you've got the feel or the texture or the structure of the rock filled in to your desired shape or whatever. As I'm doing right here, I'm changing the shape of some of these rocks because I didn't really feel like I liked them. Go back over it where you want the water to be glistening off of and put some nice white little dabs on there, and it will make it look nice and shiny, and it will kind of make it look poppy. And one of the other things that I want to talk about is not how to make them look wet, but how to make them look 3D. And this is one of the things that I talked about in my last How to Paint Realistic. I can't talk. It's early in the morning. I got up in the morning. I'm doing this. That's why my voice sounds a little low. One of the things that I talked about in the other tutorial video was midtones, highlights, and shadows. That's why I'm painting over the rest of the canvas right here with that medium gray tone. It's actually turned out to be more brown than anything. I'm not really sure why I use that color, but play with your midtones and your shadows and your highlights. If you can get the relationship right with those, where you know the light is going to be hitting, make that your midtones. Where you know there's going to be dark shadows, make that your darkest black. As you can see where I do around the bottom of these rocks, I will put pure permanent black where I know that it's going to be completely dark. And then as I move up, where I know there's going to be a small amount of light, I add in my blue or my white or my brown, depending on what color I'm using. And I just kind of play with those saturations and tones, because I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but when I am painting something, I like to experiment with what tones and what colors that I'm doing, because in the event of experimenting, if you have an idea in your head of something that you want it to look like, and you copy a rock that you've seen in another picture to a T, you may be missing out on some new style or some new shapes or colors or whatever you might find if you don't experiment. So I would highly recommend experimenting with colors and tones and shapes of things, because you'll always learn something new. Right now what I'm doing is I'm actually painting the foam in, and when you're painting foam, what you're actually doing is the foam is just a bunch of tiny little bubbles. So if you want to make that look as realistic as possible, you're never going to be able to paint each individual bubble of the foam. So what I did in this particular section, or in the foam, is I took my little tiny paintbrush and I just kind of dabbed up onto the black where I painted over with a permanent black, and gave it a little bit of like broken feel and texture, and that gave me a nice fluffy foam feel that I was actually pretty pleased with. Now, I would definitely not consider myself being adequate at doing water. It's very difficult for me to make water look real, and that will be a video that I do maybe later in my career once I dedicate a lot of time to making it look as good as possible. I don't know if any of you guys have ever heard of Catherine Burns, but I found her on Instagram, but it's a lady that does ocean paintings and icebergs and stuff, and it looks so realistic that you think you're looking at a picture. That's something I want to do. I really want to be able to paint water and make it look very, very wet and bright and glistening, and just like you can take a picture of it. Once I get to that point, and I've learned a few things about how to make it easier on you guys, or anything that I could share that I feel like would make a good video, I will definitely do that. But I'm not 100% displeased with how this particular painting came out in the end. It's just, it took me so long and so many times of just adjusting things and going back over things and just bringing the highlights up and bringing the darker spaces down and molding the edges of things and making it look smoother, that I don't really think I could make a tutorial video out of that would make any sense. So when I was doing the foam in this painting, that was probably the easiest part of the water, was the foam, because I understood a few things about how to make it look more real, and it helped me to understand what foam is and how it is created in actual real life, some of the characteristics that it has that I've seen before. So whenever I've seen foam on surf in this setting, or even in coffee that you make, when foam is on top of liquid, it's always elevated a little bit. So it's always sitting on top of like a solid liquid. So that immediately tells me that it's going to be higher. So if you have light coming from the left, you're going to have a shadow on the side of the foam that is away from the light. So you can make it look 3D pretty easily by just putting a nice little shadow on the side. Or if the foam is particularly tall, then you have a little break in the water, and you just make a little shadow that's cast onto the water, and it will immediately make it look so much better. So the next time you're ever painting foam or whatever, treat it as a separate surface and a separate entity, as it were, than the actual water itself, because it's higher, it's a different form of water, and it will act different, and it's going to be sitting on top of the water, and therefore it's going to be more 3D, and you can give it shape and shadow that you can't do for water. That was one of the things that helped me in this painting that was very nice to know, and I actually kind of figured that out while I was working on this painting, is it's a 3D surface, and it's going to be casting shadows on itself, and it's also going to be casting shadows on the liquid surface of the water. Now, this little section that I'm working on right now was an absolute pain. I don't really know why I spent so much time on this section, but I really wanted it to look good, and I don't really think I succeeded, but you'll just have to tell me in the comments. I don't really know why. Like I said, I spent so much time on this, but I guess I was just enjoying myself, and I just got carried away. So now that I've moved to the top of the painting, it's going to be mostly water. And like I said earlier, I'm not the authority on how to make water look good, and it took me a very long time to make it look like it wasn't distracting. It was such a pain. But I did learn one thing, is sometimes if you are painting water and you're trying to get the individual strokes of where the light is changing, because the surface of the water in any given situation, unless it's a literally perfectly flat pond and there's no ripples or whatever, the surface of the water is going to be catching the sky, it's going to be catching the dark parts of its water, it's going to be reflecting the clouds, it's going to be reflecting a ton of different colors and a ton of different tones. And that's why it's really, really difficult. But just like anything else, water does have rules, and some of the things don't change. But like I said, I don't really have much for you on any real tips. It's just get a reference photo, look at it, study it, and try to copy it as closely as possible in some areas, and try to learn as much as possible from just looking at water, and probably find someone on YouTube that has mastered this. I would suggest Andrew Tichler. He's really good. Chuck Black is also really good, so go check them out. And yeah, so I'm going to let this portion of the painting just play out, and I will let you guys just watch, and I will pick up when I do know something about what I'm painting, if that made any sense. Probably didn't, but enjoy. You're welcome. All right, so I've started working back on the lower part of the painting and just adding in a lot of blacks and shadows and making the rocks look shiny, like I said, adding a little bit more white so it looks like it's glistening off of the water that has just been splashed up on the rocks. Now, to try to go back over some of the things that we've talked about in this video, one of them is pay attention to your midtones, highlights, and shadows for your shape. If you know something's going to be completely black, paint the black on there, and then put your medium tones, and then worry about your highlights last. That's one thing. Play around with your shapes, move stuff around, just mess with stuff. If you want to make something look wet, make sure you have your saturations as clear and as non-grade as possible. So deep tones, nice lush colors, a lot of saturation, and make sure you put that titanium white on there whenever you want that to sparkle in the sunlight. That's going to be a very good help for you when you're trying to make it look nice and glistening. Play with your shapes and play with your tones. Experiment with how you want the light to hit it and the shadows that the rocks are going to be casting on at any given time. So if you do those few things, I think you will be very, very happy with your outcomes. Alright, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have an idea of a tutorial or a video that you want me to do, leave it in the comments. And I'm going to read for the very first time on my channel a comment that someone left on my last video, this one, and it reads, "From Addicted to Art. Thanks, Chris. I've been needing for tutorials." Smiley face emoji. Well, Addicted to Art, you're welcome. And be sure to leave a comment so that I can do another video that will help you out. That's what I'm here for. I really want to help anyone that I can with any struggles they have in art, and I'm always learning something myself. So thank you guys for watching. Leave a comment and a like, subscribe, all those things, and I will see you in the next video. Signing off for now. Dude Perfect does the pound it noggin thing, so I thought maybe if I like threw a paintbrush at the camera, it would be different. Anyway, peace.